So if you'd like me to say a few words about this, I guess I'll start with the title. It's called In the Silence, Must Go On, Can't Go On, Go On. And it's actually a quote from a Samuel Beckett play. This work and a number of other works got their titles from various snippets that I cited from Beckett. Partly because of a kind of admiration and respect for his work, and partly because it provides a kind of non sequitur to the object itself. So it leads you around. It doesn't let you focus on a particular name or identity. I'm not interested in having the work become, something, having a singular name or a singular kind of fixed identity. I'm more interested in a certain sort of ambiguity or uncertainty about the naming of it. And Beckett's work is in that sense, kind of open-ended, I think he was really an important 20th century figure in opening up our minds to thinking about things alternately. So that's the source of the title. It was finished in 2010. And it's not really part of a series. But I have made a group of works where I have worked with ideas of abstraction, ideas of a kind of material practice and a material interest. In this kind of goopy, snotty, porridgey surface over alongside a kind of sandblasted aluminum finish, and then a laminated cardboard surface, and then simple plywood. All of these materials play with each other and bring us their own associations and their own kinds of particular meaning. But alongside that, and that kind of sense of abstraction, with this work and a few others, I've been undertaking a kind of thing where I want to introduce a bit of recognition. So there's a structure here that is like the structure of a table. But then it's intersected with another form. So you're never allowed to really resolve this entirely as a table. If you come around to this side, and if you're approaching it from this side, then the table form with something on top of it, but also intruding underneath it, comes into play, and it's a more visually evident thing. But then I'm interested in taking that identity, that meaning, and confounding it. Thence it's tipped up, and it's intersected with this cardboard box. But not an ordinary cardboard box that props that up. The cardboard box is laminated with a kind of an epoxy resin that has a faint pink tinge, so that nothing is left to be. What's that for? I think it's a challenging thing, because at once I don't want it to resolve into a particular set thing. At the same time, I'm not working in a kind of nameless, formalist manner. I think that we approach these objects, and in a sense, in the same way that we understand everything in the world, we understand it with relation to what we are. So this and many of the other works are about the size, give or take, of a person. They've got a bodily relationship. It's a bit bigger because it's up on its base, but still it's got this kind of bodily relationship. We meet works of art, we come across works of art, especially sculptural works or objects. And in a sense, they're like meeting other identities, other persons. I don't want it to resolve, I keep saying this, but I don't want it to resolve into being a single, simple identity. I'm more interested in the compound identity, the confused identity, the identity that's uncertain, I don't know exactly what or who I am. I barely know what or who you are, or anybody else for that matter. They're inklings. And I think we're comprised of numerous things. We know all the sociology of it. But in terms of a lived experience, there are big aspects of myself that are kind of constructed. I make myself a certain way. But I'm also just propped together. And I'm not all that solid as a person, as a thing, And so this gets tipped up. It's propped over. The back end of it is broken away from it, but still sits there as part of it. I think there's a kind of analogy between the way I put these things together structurally and the way selves are put together. So a combination of a certain kind of direction and a kind of ambiguity and a breakdown of meaning, even as it accrues meaningfulness. And it's stuff, just like we're stuff. We're wet, we're meat stuff, but we're still stuff, yeah? So I think that's got a lot to do with the way that this exists. I'm also interested, and I think in particular with this work, in the way it unfolds as we encounter it from different directions. So from the opposite side, for example, it's got this very rectilinear, formal, vertical presence. And from this particular angle straight on, it's just a kind of skew. But then as you move around it, you find that those skewings are shifting constantly, so it's different from every side. And I've seen a lot of people, as they explore the work, come and really kind of investigate what's going on inside it. So there's this kind of massive sense, and then at the same time a hollowness and a kind of skin to it. So in that way it's pretty dynamic and it's pretty varied, and again, refuses to settle down into one kind of thing. You know, if you look at works by Henry Moore, for example, they're really massive, and they're all about density and mass and that certain sort of abstracted form. Contrast that with his student for a while, Anthony Caro, whose works are like blown wide open, you know. And I'm interested in the kind of play between the massiveness and the blown open character of it, between the skin and the core, between the bulk and the surface.